Hello, sorry you missed our lab. I'm gonna videotape some of it so that you can see and be able to do your lab write-up in conclusion just by watching this video. So I'm gonna walk you through each of the steps and each of the parts of all of our tests, starting with having our blocks here. Students came here, they got one wooden block full of 5 test tubes. Okay, notice how they all have stoppers. And then what we did is we came over here and we had 5 different known solutions. So for example, we know that this one over here is Cr, which is chromium, and it's a chromium nitrate. Okay. Then we have Cu, and this is our copper chloride. We have over here iron nitrate, Fe for iron. We know this one is zinc nitrate, Zn. And then over here we have potassium nitrate, which is K. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put 1 milliliter of each of these knowns into my test tubes, which should be clean, and I want to make sure that I label which test tube is which one, so that when I go out to my tests and I make my observations, I can be really accurate with which observation goes with which chemical. So I'm going to do that one now. So I have here, I'm going to start here. Notice how this one down here says Zn, so I'm going to put 1 milliliter of the zinc nitrate in here. And 1 milliliter, as we know, is just to the top, or about the top of our pipette. So that goes in there. Okay. Okay. Next, we're going to put in our Fe into this test tube. We want to make sure we're not mixing pipettes, so this is my Fe. I'm going to bring it over here, put it into my labeled Fe test tube. Remember, we're doing 1 milliliter. Okay. Put my test tube back on. Next, I want my Cr. Notice how it's labeled Cr. So here, sorry, working with one hand's a little challenging. So this is my Cr. If you'd like to make some observations of each of these chemicals before you run the tests, I highly suggest doing so. Okay. And we have Cr. Okay. Put my test tube stopper over there. On the other side of my block, okay, I know it's a little bit hard to see, but this one here is Cu. So this test tube is going to be Cu, or copper. And that leaves my last one over here to be K. My last one is K, and that's potassium. And these are ionic solutions that we're working with here. Okay. All right, so now that I have my base, these are my 5 known chemicals, I know what each of them are, I'm going to go run test A on each of these chemicals and record down what I see. So when I run these tests, you need to write down in your notebook what you see. Let me go grab my lighter. Okay, so now I have my lighter. I'm going to be performing my flame test now. According to the directions, I will have gone over here. I will add 1 or 2 drops of HCl, hydrochloric acid, to each of my test tubes. Okay. 1, 2, looks like that bottle cap has a little broken, so I'm going to grab a different one. Never want to work with broken chemical bottles. So again, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. What that does is it allows the reaction to be a little bit more dramatic for you to see. Okay, now I'm going to need to light my Bunsen burner. So here I need to make sure that my gas is turned on. Can you hear it? Okay, then I'm going to take my lighter. I'm going to go ahead and light. Okay, so there I have it lit. Now I need to make sure that my flame test rod is clean. I'm going to put it there and make sure it doesn't burn any colors. Alright, so now is when you're going to want to make very sure that you're taking detailed observations. This is under the test 1, test A, and I am going to start with CR. So this is CR is what you're writing your observations for. I'm making sure that I have a full little bubble there. And pay close attention. Record what you see. I'm going to do it one more time so you can see it. Get a good little bubble. Having a hard time getting some on there. Make sure it's down there. There we go. Got a good liquid-filled bubble. Come over here, pay. Oop, lost my bubble. So you got to keep doing it till you have a bubble in that loop. Oh, notice that. There are little sparks there. Okay. So that was CR. Then I'm going to make sure it's nice and clean for my next chemical. Oh, see how we have some on there? Make sure it's nice and clean. Okay, so now we're going to do FE. So again, FE, this one right here. And put it in here. Make sure that we have liquid filling the loop. Okay. Oops, my bubble popped, so I gotta make sure I do it again until I have that. It's not working out for me, is it? You see that? It was quick, so I'm gonna do it one more time. You wanna write down what you see. Again, this is test A, FE. Just see it? Super quick. Okay, I'm gonna make sure I clean my rod. Okay, so the next chemical I'm gonna do is ZN. Right here, this is my zinc. And so I put it in there, make sure I have a full bubble. Come over here. Gotta get that full bubble. Again, super quick. I'm gonna do it one more time so you can see it. Every once in a while you want to wash it off, make sure that we're clean. So I'm just cleaning. This is just cleaning. Okay? So I'm going to stick it back in the ZN. Try it again.
I have 3 people. No more. Out of 33. 3 out of 33.
One more time. Write down what you see, any little thing. Okay? Alright, so I'm going to wash this one off. Coming over here to wash it off. I'm going to rinse it real good. Okay, make sure we're burning clear. Now what we're going to do is we're going to switch to our other side, and we're going to be doing CU next. So here you can see CU. Okay, put it down in there. Make sure I have my loop. Oh, nice and obvious there. Do you see that? Full green. Okay, I'm going to do it one more time. Put it in there. Do it one more time here. Okay, make sure you're writing down your observations. That was CU test A. Rinse one more time. Our very last one is K. So we have our potassium. K. Put the test rod in there. Make sure we have our loop full. Oh, notice that we have some sparks and some green. So again, I'll do it one more time. Full thing, pay close attention. This is K for test A. Okay. So here. Now what I'm going to do is make sure I have a nice clean test rod, and then I'm going to go dump my chemicals in hazardous waste and wash out my tubes before I do test B. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shut off the camera real quick while I do that. I'm going to go clean my test tubes. I'm going to make sure I turn my Bunsen burner off. Okay, so I'll walk over chemical waste, put these in there, wash out my test tubes, and then I'm going to go grab 5 more. So the same chemicals, I'm going to grab a new round of them so that I can do test B. So I'll meet you back in a few moments. All right, welcome back. We have finished test A with our flame test, and now we are in test 2. So I have my new set of chemicals. I have already washed the test A out, and I've gotten a 0.5 milliliter of each of our new chemicals here. Notice how I have them labeled as well. And now what we need to do is we need to add 5 drops of HCl into each of these test tubes. So I'm going to do that now. You want to add 5 drops. HCl back on, and I want to gently mix each one. Gently mix. Okay, what I need to do now is add 10 drops of NH4Cl, so I'm going to take it over into the hood. For the sake of the camera, I'm going to do it with the hood partially raised, but when you're working in the hood, you need to make sure that you pull it down over. So here I'm going to do it raised just because of the camera. I'm going to double check I have NH4Cl. I double check the bottle, make sure it's NH4Cl, and then I add my 10 drops. So I've added about 10 drops to each one. I'm trying to be as accurate as possible. I need to gently shake each one. That's my CR. This is my FE. This is my zinc. Okay. My potassium K. And now I have my CU. Shake it a little bit. Now I need to add 10 drops of NH4OH, and this is my ammonium hydroxide. Double check the bottle, make sure it matches the sign, and then I add my 10 drops. want to note any, gently mix and note any changes. Okay, so I'm going to put this on the counter so we can do that. So here, mixed up. Ooh, notice this. This is my CR. Okay. Here I have my FE. Record any changes in your table. Here I have my ZN, my zinc. Okay. This is my potassium, K. And this is my Cu. Look at that. Okay, my next step will be to centrifuge. So I'm going to go over to my centrifuge. I'm going to make sure that I don't have my stoppers in at the centrifuge. When I centrifuge, I want to make sure I have no more than 6 test tubes, but that I'm balanced. So what I'm going to need to make sure is do 4 the first time so that it's balanced. So 1, I'm making sure I know what's what. So I have my zinc, and I might just do 2. All right, so yesterday where we finished is we got done with test B and the first part of it, so we were able to mix all of our chemicals together. Okay, so now we're going to be at the centrifuging part because we're checking for solids, and we call solids precipitates. So first here we have our CR. This is what it looks like before centrifuging. Notice the bottom, there is a solid or a precipitate forming. Okay. Then we have our Fe. Notice we have a solid there. Our zinc does not look like we have a solid. We have our Cu. Okay. And here we have our potassium nitrate. Okay. So now what we're going to be doing is centrifuging. We want to make sure that we're centrifuging for about a minute and that we're balancing our centrifuge, and we do not put the stoppers on when we are centrifuging. So stoppers are off, and I have to balance, so I'm going to keep them separate. Make sure I know what I have here. Centrifuging it in. They're going across from each other. So I can't put the last one in just yet because it has to be balanced. So I'll put that on. Okay. And we're going to do it for about a minute. So while it's centrifuging, the last one here, again, we're going to have is chromium nitrate here. After we get done, we're checking to see if we have solids. And I'm going to pick up this video right after we get done centrifuging it all, and then I'll show you what we get. Alright, so now we're done centrifuging, and if we look at our directions here, we want to record our results, and we're looking to see if there's a solid. Okay, and we're recording our results. So I'm going to walk you through, and now you're writing in your data table, and we're on test B for each chemical. So we have our CR. Notice how right there, record the results. Notice the solid. Also note the color and about how much. As many observations as you can. One word is never okay. Okay, here we have the Fe. Again, we're recording our results. One word is never okay. This is Fe. Next thing we're going to have is our zinc. None of your boxes should ever have nothing in them. So even if you don't see a change or you don't see a solid, it's really important that you're still writing that down. Okay. Here we have our Cu. Really hard in there. Okay, that's Cu. And our last one is our potassium. Okay. All right, so now we have, this is kind of our conclusion of test B. So I'm going to clean these out before getting a new setup for test C. So make sure now that if you go to your data table in your notebook, by this time you should have finished test A and you should have finished test B. If not, go back and rewatch so that you can add those in. Now we're going to do test C, so I'll come back with a new video clip for that. Welcome back for test C of our ions flame test lab. So if we look here at the directions, what we have is we have a 1/2 ml of each of the known substances in our test tubes, and I've already added those in for us to kind of speed it along. Now what we're going to be doing is add 5 drops of NaOH and centrifuging the mixture even if we don't think there's a solid. And then after that we have an if-then statement. So if there's a solid, we'll remove the liquid by dumping it down the sink and take that sample to step 2. If there is no solid, then we'll just continue with those ones to step 3. Okay, we want to make sure we're recording which chemicals formed solids and which did not. So right now I'm going to add the 5 drops of NaOH. So I double check my sign and make sure that that matches the bottle, which it does. So 5 drops of each one in here. So here we have the 5 drops of NaOH, and now we're going to mix them up a little bit. So this one's copper, Cr, chromium. So this is chromium. Notice, okay. The next one we have is Fe. So you're writing down if you think there's a solid or not right now. The next one we're going to have is Zn. I know it's kind of hard to tell in the video on this one, but if you look in here, there's some solid going on in there. Okay, next one we have is now our copper, our Cu. And this one again, I can tell, and I'm not sure if the video is very clear on this, but there is some solid in this one, and it's almost like a jelly blue solid. And lastly, we have our K. So even if we don't think there's a solid in there, what we need to do now is centrifuge all of them, but at this point you should have written down if any of them did form a solid or if they did not form a solid into your chart. Okay, so I'm going to take these over to the centrifuge, and I'm going to come back with the video clip after I've centrifuged them. So again, this is test C before centrifuging, but after we have added our NaOH, which is sodium hydroxide. Make sure your data table now has if each one has formed a solid for test C before centrifuging. Okay, welcome back to test C after centrifuging. So now we're going to take another look at our chemicals, and we're going to see if for these known 5 substances, if a solid formed or is noticed after centrifuging. So this is after centrifuging, test C. So first we're going to start with our Cr. Do you notice a solid? It looks like it's only a liquid and that it's a dark green, kind of a translucent liquid. Okay. Now we're going to have our Fe. So here, looks like we do have a solid. Note the color and how much. Make sure to note the solid and the liquid. Okay. Now we have the Zn. Notice that we do have a solid. I'm going to put it against the black countertop so you can kind of see it better. Notice the precipitate or the solid at the bottom. no color, no amount. Okay. Next we have our CU. So here, no color, no amount. It definitely looks like we have a solid there. No, the type of solid. Notice how things are stuck to the side of the test tube. Again, this is CU. Next we have K. Remember, don't ever leave anything blank. Say exactly what it looks like. One word is never okay. Okay? So now, I'm going to bring this back over to my directions because I always in lab make sure that I follow my directions. So here, now it says, if there's a solid, remove the liquid by dumping it down the sink and take that sample to step 2. If there's no solid, go to step 3. So what I'm going to do is for my solids, I'm going to take them to step 2. And I want to make sure I'm using a pipette to separate the liquid from the solid. And in this case, if it formed a solid, it is okay to put the liquid down the sink. Okay, so here we'll go. This is CR, no solid, so I keep it for step 3. Now here I double check. Notice how I do have a solid here. Okay, so this is my FE. I do have a solid, and I know this is kind of hard to do with only one hand and one's holding the videotape, but I'm going to remove the liquid from the solid. Okay, I'm going to do that. Just give me a moment. Thanks for being patient while I do this. Removing the liquid from the solid, I am putting the liquid down the sink only if it formed a solid. Trying to leave as much of the solid behind and only taking up the liquid. Okay. So notice how I have the solid down there. There's a little bit liquid left, but now I'm getting to the point where I'm picking up my solid, so I'm going to leave that part behind. So that's FE. Now I'm looking at my ZN. So here, and I need to remove my solid from my liquid.
Well, I'm not having. Oh, sorry.
Alright, so coming back, this is my solid, and there's a little bit of liquid in there, so I need to take out a little bit more of my ZN. So I'm going to take out a little bit more. And again, I'm using 2 hands to try and hold everything here, so sorry if you can't see this in process. Okay. So now here I have basically my solid at the bottom, and this is ZN. This is my CU, so I need to remove the solid from the liquid, and I'll do that now. I'm going to come back to the video camera and kind of stop the video, and I'm going to have this CU removed, and then the K doesn't have anything, so give me a moment. Alright, so now I'm back and I have the CU, the solid, different from the liquid. The liquid is now down the drain, and the solid is going to be put in here. So in this step, I used the FE, the ZN, and the CU all had solids, so I separated the liquid from those solids in there. So now I need to go back and I need to run everything through step 3. So for step 3, I need to add 8 drops of H2SO4 to each of the solutions, which are the liquids, or the solids. Now, then we need to note the change, and after we do that, I'm going to be adding 5 drops of K4FeCN6, and then I'm going to be centrifuging. So let's take this over to the H2SO4 station, and then we'll come back. Okay, so I'm moving, being very, very careful. All right. So now I'm here by my sulfuric acid and I'm double checking H2SO4, H2SO4 on the bottle before I put it in. So I'm adding 8 drops into each of my test tubes. So here we go. Adding 8 drops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, So I'm adding those in. And now I need to see if anything underwent a change. So this is the CR. You're recording this in your data table under test C. And we're on step 3 of the lab. Notice how we have little clumps in this one. Okay. It's my ZN. This one's a big one. Before that was a solid and now it's back to a clear liquid. Okay. This is my CU. This is my K. All right, so now I need to add 5 drops of K4FeCN6 and then centrifuge. So I'm gonna go over here, check my sign, check my bottle, same thing, okay? So now I'm gonna be adding into here. I'm gonna come back with the video once everything is added and we'll record our observations. Welcome back. So now I'm still on part C. I have added my 5 drops of K4FeCN6 and I have centrifuge. So we are recording our results now, our last results for test C. So first I have item CR. Okay, now I have item FE. Note the little itty bitty solid there at the bottom. It's FE. Also note colors, amounts. Okay, now I have ZN. Kind of like a cloudy clear there. I know it's hard to see. Now I've got CU. You notice any of those particulates in there? Just a little bit. No color, no amount. Again, that's CU. And now we are on K. This is K. Okay. All right, so now what you should have done is part A done, test A. You should have test B done, and now you should have test C done. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna prepare us an unknown solution, and while I'm preparing that, I want you to fill out what your variables would be for this test. So the manipulated, the responding, and the controlled variables for our unknown trial. Then what we're going to be doing is we're going to be running test A, test B, and test C so that you can create a hypothesis of what you think your chemical is. So here, going back to the hypothesis section, we're going to be creating a hypothesis, and that's after we do test A, B, and C. So I'm going to go prepare that unknown and we'll run our tests. I'll be right back while you're filling in your variables. Alright, so now I'm on my unknown. I should have filled in my variables. This is my unknown. I have 3 samples of it. When you're given one test tube with a large sample, you need to split it into 3 so you can run your 3 tests. Okay, so here, this is what I've got. So now what I'm doing is I'm filling in here for test A, B, and C for my unknown. So here I'm running the flame test first, so I'm going to use test tube A for flame test A. So what I want to make sure is I follow all the directions for flame test, but since we've done it once, I'm going to kind of speed through it for us. Remember not to add chemical to all of them, just to the one that's going to be used for test A. Now I've done that, I want to clean my rod. Good. Now I'm going to put it in here, test A. I want to grab it so my bubble's full, and now pay attention. Oh, my bubble popped. Okay. That was flame test A. I'll do it one more time. And you're filling in your data table for your unknown test A. Okay, so now I'm going to stop it and I'm going to go do test B, so make sure test A is filled out for you. Alright, so now I'm back on unknowns. I'm on test B, so I put test A aside, and now I'm only going to be working with our test B test tube. Okay, so I'm here running my tests for test B, starting with adding 5 drops of HCl to the solution. So I'm adding my 5 drops. Okay. I gently mix it. Okay. Next step of this one is to go to NH4Cl, and we're going to add 10 drops. So I'm over here in the hood, NH4Cl, yes. And notice how this one, if I check the label and if I check the sign, notice how those are switched. So I need to make sure I put the right chemical under the right sign. Always double check, people. So I'm putting 10 drops here. Okay. Gently mix. I've got kind of like a colloid looking thing down there. Okay. So now I go to my next step, which is to add 10 drops of NH4OH. So now I'm at this one, double checking against that, against my sign. So 10 drops of this one. Okay. 10 drops. Gently shake. Oh, look at that change. Okay. So record your changes down. This is test B for your unknown. Step 4, test B. Okay, so now what we're going to do is take this over to the centrifuge. Okay. We want to make sure that we balance the centrifuge, so I'm going to run test A and test B in the centrifuge, but I'm only looking for the results for test B. Okay, so I'm going to start it. And I will come back when it is finished to show you the results for test B unknown. Welcome back. We are on test B for our unknown, and we have just centrifuged. So record your results. Test B, unknown, we have just centrifuged. Okay. So now what you should have filled out down here is you should have this filled out, you should have this filled out, and now we need to run test C. Okay, so for test C, I need to add the, over here, I need to get my, this is kind of the one that for number 1, I already have gotten my solution, so I don't need to do step 1. I need to add 5 drops of NaOH and centrifuge. So we're going to head over to the NaOH. Okay, so we're here, we're at NaOH, we're double checking our bottle, make sure it's NaOH. And now we're going to add 5 drops of it to our new solution. So we're working with our new test tube C for test C. Okay. Okay, so let's look to see what we got. Ooh, we went from that red, now look what it is. Okay. That's test C. We've added 5 drops of NaOH. So now we need to centrifuge. Okay, so we're gonna go over, we're gonna centrifuge, and I will stop recording and come back when we have centrifuged. Welcome back. I'm on my unknown test C and I have just centrifuged, and notice and record what you see after this step. So I did get a solid, so I need to remove the solid from the liquid. So I need to come over here. I'm going to remove the solid from the liquid using a pipette. Sorry if you can't see this part. Again, I'm trying to hold everything with just 2 hands. But right now what I'm doing is I am removing the liquid from the solid over here. So I'm removing the liquid from the solid. Let's look to see what we got.
Well, I lost my first soldier.
So this is here, my solid. So maybe now's a good time where you want to compare it to things that you've done for your known solutions. So here, again, my solid for test C. And this is my unknown test C, and I just finished step 2. So now I need to add 8 drops of the H2SO4. So we're going to bring this over to our H2SO4. I'm going to take my directions with me. So double check the bottle, H2SO4 against H2SO4. Okay, so now what I need to do is add 8 drops. Okay, add 8 drops. Okay, so notice what I've got now. Now I need to drop 5 drops of K4FeCN. Let's double check the bottle to the side. Okay, 5 drops of this buddy. Let's see what we got. Ooh, notice what we've got here. Okay, so that is the last step before putting in chemical waste for your unknown for test C. So now what you need to do is make your hypothesis. So fill in your test C, your data. You have your unknown solution hypothesis here, but you also need to go back in your lab and write it under your hypothesis. Okay? Once you have done that, I want you to check with me to see what your unknown actually was. Okay, so I'm going to put in a different video clip what your unknown was, and then you need to write your conclusion. All right, so now I'm going to tell you what your unknown was. So make sure that you have already filled out your hypothesis and your unknown data table before you listen to the response. Pause the tape here if you have not done so and go back and do so. All right, your unknown was copper. Now go on to write your 8-step conclusion.